Good afternoon and welcome to our BCP Council Facebook Live session where I'll be live for the next 30 minutes answering your questions. My name is Drew Mellor and I'm the leader of BCP Council. So please could you put your messages in the chat bar below and I'll get to as many of them as I can. Thank you very much. I'll start as I have done for the last 2 months now with a brief COVID update effectively. Some really good news, and it's encouraging again. Our COVID rates have gone down to the low 30s per 100,000 of population, and just as a sense check, that was at a height of nearly 900 quite recently, and the current England rate is in the 50s. So we're now well below the English rate, and we were considerably ahead of it for some time. So that's really positive news. We've got over nearly 350,000 people vaccinated in Dorset now, which is great. So fantastic job by the NHS and their partners on that. We're one of the leading counties in the country on that. So some really good news, and that's ultimately led to the rates in our hospitals now down to much more manageable levels. The last count we saw was in the region of 30 people, down from a height of around 600 again quite recently. So some really good progress. So this is I'm very happy to take questions on COVID or anything in relation to the council. It's a general session today, so please put your questions in the chat below and I will get to them. Okay, let's get to the first questions. Okay, not seeing any questions come up at the moment, so we'll just refresh that. Again, not seeing them, so I might just have to check if they're coming up properly. Okay, yes, they're starting to come through now, which is great. Okay, so Steve has asked a question around the park and ride, and specifically you're asking questions about the locations of the park and ride. So Steve, they're still to be absolutely finalised where they'll be. What we wanted to make sure was we did offer a park and ride system, and the current one we're about to set up will be for just under 400 cars. We've got the opportunity to make it larger if it's needed later in the summer, but getting it set up was important. Steve, what we're also doing is we're putting on a free bus effectively from the Bournemouth train station as another way of getting people around. So we'll get more details on exact locations and the potential scale of it as we get further into the summer. But thank you for your question. Okay, we've got a question about the grant schemes. We'll ask somebody to post effectively sort of an update on the grants. We've done them relatively regularly here, so that should be relatively common knowledge. What we are moving forward with shortly is effectively a bounce back fund, where we're going to be using some discretionary funding to get out to businesses who can actually bounce back creatively and better. There's going to be a few different pots of that. One will be for relatively small grants to enable businesses to put on some things to help them come out of this. What we're quite innovatively doing is looking at how we can actually get larger pots of money out and match fund with other organisations. So my cabinet colleague Phil Broadhead will be bringing that forward shortly, and Spencer, we look forward to other people engaging in that programme. Okay. Yeah, Sean Casey's asked a question about a problem regarding travellers in Alam Chine. So this is obviously a recurring issue, for our communities, about how we address the traveller community and the problem with antisocial behaviour there. There is government legislation coming which will enable us to have more effective powers in terms of how we're going to be dealing with that. So that's something we're looking forward to. We brought forward some money in the budget we've just passed in February, so we're actually more able as a council to address those problems effectively. It's a mixture, Sean, of engagement and enforcement if that work doesn't work. There's opportunities through the local plan to work with Dorset around their transit site that they've got, and whether we've got an opportunity to work there or look for suitable locations in the conurbation. But it's an ongoing issue. Sean, we've put some money into the budget to help tackle it. We're working increasingly closely with the police in terms of how we can join up our approach to it. So we're well aware of that problem, and our officers are working on it. Okay. Fine. Yeah, Nicola's asked a question, and it's a long question, Nicola. So I'll paraphrase if I may. That you're saying with some really, there's some proposals for improvements to transport, new homes, etc., which is great, and I'm glad you're positive about that. But you're questioning the lack of sustainability elements to that, and I think that's a valid concern, and I'll just sort of talk to that if I may. So as a council, we've declared a climate and ecological emergency. That's an absolute commitment of ours to address. What we want to do is we wanted to bring forward regeneration at scale across the conurbation. So we want to help BCP become a world-class city region. So we've come forward with some pots of money as how we can do that. We don't think it's a binary choice between developing and the environmental concerns. We want to do both. So Nicola, what you've seen a lot of at the moment is the first phase of that, in terms of saying how that we're going to turbocharge regeneration and rejuvenation for our towns. What we're coming forward with on the back of that, and it's something we've been consistent about, I think we first raised it in June last year, was something called a community municipal bond, effectively, which allows us to put hopefully millions of pounds into carbon reduction projects that can then go forward alongside some of the development we're undertaking. We are committed to sustainable development as well. So the homes that we'll be bringing forward, will have sustainability at the heart of them. But the community municipal bond will also give us some firepower to be able to do that as well. So thank you very much for the question. Apologies I didn't read it all out, but it was quite long. Okay, fine. Alex Williamson, this is a really helpful question, really hugely important, and what are you doing to address and negate the damage of adverse childhood experiences in Bournemouth? Alex, there's a number of things that come into this. One of the things I'll mention is what we did in terms of, we brought forward £1 million families fund, effectively, in our budget in February. The whole ethos around that is around, if we look back at the last 12 months, particularly, I know your question wasn't specifically about the last 12 months, but it's, our children have been severely and significantly affected by the COVID pandemic, being out of school effectively, lacking social experience as well. So what we wanted to do was to bring something forward that can help families, one, catch up, but also around all the mental health and other family support they need. So very materially, Alex, that is the number one priority of our council, to put children at the heart of what we do. We've also got some challenges, some documented challenges in our historic children's services, and we put in £8.5 million of the budget in terms of how we're addressing that. So effectively what we've tried to do, Alex, is say it's hugely, any happy, healthy, thriving, town and city is a great place to grow up, and we've got a lot of things that are great about here to grow up, but we've also got some challenges. So we're doing something about it, Alex. We're being as proactive as I believe any other council in the country are. We're really keen to hear any other ideas. So please, by all means, feed in. Fine. So I've got a question about Keyhole Bridge. So why did we open Keyhole Bridge when so many were against it? Carolyn, I think we've been through this. I'll be relatively brief in terms of my answer, but want to answer it. Effectively, we took soundings from a variety of different sources, including ward councillors. The Parkstone ward councillors were adamant that the feedback they'd been getting was that it wasn't the right time to close that bridge. So we've looked at the reasons why. We've balanced it off against what reasons people were bringing forward why they wanted it to be closed or open, and we come to a balanced decision. One thing I will say though, Carolyn, is we're absolutely committed to sustainable travel. We definitely will be bringing forward a significant number of schemes in the tranche 2 of the ETRO, the emergency travel orders. We thought where the first implementation, and it was at pace, it was rushed, so it wasn't going to be perfect, but I think there wasn't enough sort of early consultation with ward councillors and the public to get those schemes absolutely right. So we've taken out some of the ones which we don't think were put in properly, but we've kept a lot in place. We're going to bring forward a lot of schemes, and I think by getting the consultation right when we do it, we're going to win the argument and make sure people can be positive about these emergency travel orders. Okay, Sean Casey's asked a question about provisions being put in place to ensure visitors over the summer are managed better than last year regarding parking and rubbish. Sean, absolutely. You may well have seen, I believe it's in the paper today or in the Echo today, we'd originally put forward a sum of money of £1.1 million in our budget to put extra things like enforcement, bins effectively, extra litter clearances and the like. Now that we've got the actual dates from the government for lockdown easing and got clarity over that, we've reassessed that and we've put forward an over £2 million of additional investment into that. So absolutely, what you're talking about, Sean, better parking and rubbish. So certain things that will be different to last year. For the whole summer, we'll have parking enforcement in terms of we'll be able to tow away vehicles. On the beach, we've got a much bigger bins. Effectively, we've got more people. And some of the more positive things we're looking to do as well, we're bringing a number of barbecues, electric barbecues to the beach, which would be free for public use, certainly for this summer, which is hopefully great. So we're getting more things for people to do on the seafront. We're refurbishing some toilet blocks on the seafront particularly. So we're putting a huge amount of effort and focus because, sure, what's really, really important is we're a seaside place, we're a beautiful place, we have a lot of tourism here. There's an article that clearly said there was no issues with transmission for people coming down here around COVID. We've got to be open for business and we've got to be proud of what we are. So we've got to deal with the visitors positively. So a huge amount of work going on with that. It will be busy at certain points. It will be, but we're going to be, as we believe, as ready for it as we can be. Okay, trying to find a question I haven't answered before. Yeah, Nick is talking about, again, just to feed on from a comment I've just been making about summer readiness, so talking about rubbish is a huge problem. One of the things we're able to do, we brought forward, is more community safety officers, so CSAS officers. We put 6 extra ones new in the budget, and we've got other ones coming. And they have actual powers to actually then find people, so be more interventionist in terms of rubbish and antisocial behaviour. So hopefully there's a significant amount more happening than there was able to happen last year. Ralph mentioned about taxi drivers specifically. Ralph, I've already talked about the grants schemes. If you can't find access to the different grant pots, please let us know. But they are online. I'm more than happy to pick that up personally. But there is a specific scheme in our discretionary scheme for taxi drivers. Okay. Fine. So Sally's asked a question about hedgehog highways, which actually isn't something I know anything about. So Sally, I will look in and pick that up personally because I don't know the answer. Maybe one of my colleagues will do. Okay. So we've got a question around the taxis effectively and the taxi licensing. So just as an update, what was brought forward recently was effectively we have to bring. We've got 3 different systems and we've got 3 different places. So as we're now BCP Council, we need to bring that forward under one place. What we didn't want to do was to do that overnight. So effectively, we've taken a significant amount of time to do that, so that people can effectively work with the knowledge of effectively what is happening. So that's the comment around the Hackney plates. Okay, so Brenda, you asked some question about bus passes and why can't be given at 60 years of age. So effectively, although we have to fund the bus passes, it's actually a government decision. It's not something we can do. We then it's interesting actually. It costs us more money as a tourist destination because we have more people using our buses effectively than just our local residents. So, but it's not something we can change. We can change locally. Fine. Caroline's asked a question about no pandemic relief for disabled people, and it looks to be a very relatively sort of personal circumstance to that, Caroline. What we'll do is we'll pick that up. I won't comment on that publicly, but we'll pick that up. And if you haven't been given provision, that's something that shouldn't be the case. So we will look into that for you, and Caroline and I will come back to you. Yeah, fine. Steve, if you're commenting on travellers, folks will put it up again. Yes, the debate has been postponed, but there's a lot of parliamentary legislation that's having to be postponed in terms of how it fits in with the emergency regulations and how they're all sitting. But it is coming effectively. And Alex Williamson, yeah, please do email me. And my email address is drew.mellor, MELLOR, @bcpcouncil.gov.uk. And I'll very happily look into any ideas you've got around supporting our children. Gary Sherman was asking a question around: is there any plans for a direct access hostel for homeless in Bournemouth, Poole or Christchurch? Gary, I'd say we're trying to bring forward a significant amount in terms of homelessness. It was a really big year last year for homelessness as a priority area. Back in March we had the Everyone In. We've really ramped up all of our efforts locally and had some national attention for it positively. In terms of how we're moving much quicker to offer accommodation, and there's a real priority for us to do that effectively immediately. What we aren't actively bringing forward is a direct access hostel, although what we are doing is working with partners because and that includes the government effectively, who have got a pledge to end homelessness by the end of the Parliament, and they've given us a significant amount of money to try and facilitate that. For instance, we've got £5 million to buy new housing stock, which is great. One thing we are doing, which is really interesting with our partners, we're aspirationally bringing together a health hub, effectively, where we will look to try and co-locate health members, housing departments, effectively. So in one place, in the heart of one of our towns, and hopefully then it can be expanded, we will be able to offer services to our to a really vulnerable community when they need them. And really, Gary, what we're hoping to do with that is, because all the professionals will be in one place, then somebody can access the support they need, when they need it. So there is an ambition for BCP. If we're going to be a world-class city region, it isn't acceptable to have people, sleeping on our streets. It's not ambitious enough for them, and we're going to try and do something really impactful about it. So the health hub will be a really important part of that, Gary. Okay. Fine. Let me try and answer something I haven't already answered a question from. Not sure about the probation centre that Sarah Beach is asking about, but we can look into that. Fine. Yeah, Harriet Stewart Jones. We've got a question here around: will you be sad to lose the open green fields of Highmore Farm next to the university to development? So Harriet, that's a really interesting question. So I'm the local councillor for that area, so I'm aware a planning application has gone in around that site. What I can say is that I've spoken personally on a number of occasions at planning committee. I won't specifically talk now on this application because I will need to address the planning committee on it as and when it comes forward. I think Highmore Farm is a fantastic facility. I think it's, my children very much, in the lockdown really enjoyed walking on the heath, with me and showing them the animals. So I think it's really important that we maintain, facilities like that across the conurbation, and development's got to be in the right place. So very much we'll look at whatever is coming forward in terms of the planning. I'm not a member of the planning committee before now, but I will be speaking to it. on any applications that come forward going forward. So personally, if you want a straight answer to the question, I'll be absolutely devastated to lose Hymel Farm, and we'll work to see how we can maintain facilities like that, including Hymel Farm. Because development, we want a lot of development. We want this to be a busy, vibrant place. But should that be next to a heathland? Should that be in the heart of our communities, or should it be in more built up areas? I think more of a latter. Okay. Jamie Dunn, I actually disagree with you. You saying Keyhole Bridge wasn't a balanced decision. It was made back on data back in 2016. You're talking about the air quality piece there, Jamie. That was part of the consideration, and there are a number of other considerations around. We've had a really mixed bag of feedback in terms of that decision. It was very contentious. What is really important now about this is we need to win the argument. People are interested in Keyhole Bridge need to stop. It shouldn't be so antagonistic, effectively, because if we work together on the schemes that are coming forward, we have a real opportunity to try and positively influence active travel, which is an aspiration for what we want to do. But you've got to do that with residents. You've got to do that with people, effectively, and ultimately that wasn't. That wasn't the case last summer. Okay, Elizabeth Ramsey, question about e-scooters. Are they going to be banned between July and August for same as bikes? Elizabeth, I'm presuming you mean on the prom, effectively, because that's when we do have a cycling ban in July and August. And Elizabeth, yes, I can confirm that we are moving forward with a ban along the prom of e-scooters in line with bikes. So that will be between 10 and 6 on July and August. So hopefully that is helpful. Right, okay. Paul Draper's asked about ARG Stream 3 details. We'll get them online, effectively, on this chat bar. One of our colleagues will be able to put them on there. Hannah Saunders has asked a question about reviving the local high street. Effectively, Hannah, will there be more schemes like the private one on Kingland Crescent? Well, actually, yes, we hope so, to be honest with you, Hannah. And thank you for emailing me. So 2 things to point out here. One is that we have a consultation at the moment on reimagining our high streets, and I believe it's till the end of the month. So if please seek that consultation out. We really want feedback from people about how we can recover our high streets and reimagine them in terms of what is going to be positive going forward. So thank you. You talk about the scheming in Kingland Crescent. And that's effectively where independents have been encouraged by giving them stores for I believe it's 2 years to help them sort of land in a town and then go forward. We've come forward with effectively a retail strategy, a high street strategy, where we're going to look to be more interventionists ourselves. We're going to look to see if we can do some of that going forward. We've got one of the lead members I brought forward in our cabinet team was a guy called Nigel Brooks, who's got extensive retail experience, and he's leading on that for us. So Hannah, what we're saying is we want to be more interventionist. We don't want to just sit back and complain about the high street. We want to work out how we can rejuvenate it. One of the reasons we're so proud and convinced in our big plan, effectively, so the wider regeneration piece, is we really need to get the economy moving. We need to get more people living in town centres effectively, which then we opportunity to then build up in town centres, bring more people into them, which means then we can protect green belt and areas like a lot of areas in Christchurch, which we more need protecting from development numbers. So hopefully, yes, Hannah, that's what we're looking for. Yeah, Nick Finnemore, women and girls safety. We don't need just lighting. What else are you doing? Nick, absolutely agree. Effectively, we were very moved by the events of the weekend. I'm sure everybody was. When I say we, I'm specifically meaning about myself and my deputy leader, Phil Broadhead. And we issued a statement on Monday evening to say effectively that we needed to listen and address some of these concerns. And you're right, it's more than just lighting. Like that is a part of it though. So one of the things we're doing is today, and I don't believe it's gone out yet, but effectively today we're expecting to bring a call to action, a community call to action, which is something I personally asked for to be brought forward, and it does include things like lighting and effectively cutting back of undergrowth where people feel unsafe is what we're asking them to feed back on effectively, and then we are going to act and do something about it. So please look out for that. We really want people to feed in around the conurbation where there's things that need to happen to make people more safe. It's much more complicated than just a physical environment, but that's part of our responsibility, and that's something we're going to address. And the government are putting more money in for and asking us to bid for it. So we feel that by really engaging the community and saying, well, where do we need to do some work on this? It should be really impactful. But we've got more to do than just that, and we're committed. I'm personally committed to doing that. Okay. Fine. So Jane Balls asked a question about Heathland fires and can we ban single-use barbecues. So we're not able to do that. What we are doing, and I've actually mentioned it in terms of beach rather than Heathland, Jane. So apologies for going on a slight tangent there. But you talk about single-use barbecues. We want them off of the beach really as well because they're not safe. But we're not able to go as far as banning them. So what we're doing is putting barbecues in and around the seafront. Putting a really significant investment to get them in there, which is hopefully going to be really great for people. Okay, I realise I'm still about 9 minutes behind on some of these questions. We've only got 3 minutes to go, so I do apologise. Do feel free to still ask questions, and we'll try and get to them, even if it's not in the live broadcast. I'll try and find something we haven't got. Ashley Road new service looks great. Any plans for the rest of it from CV Roundabout? Yeah, so Theodore, we are doing a number of road services scheme. Ashley Road particularly, it's really interesting. It's a very quick fire fix. So it's not a permanent. It's not a new road, but it does really give extension of life. So we're doing that across the conurbation, and we're doing quite a lot more of that now. We put quite a lot more money into things like potholes and roads maintenance, etc. Yeah, Sue, do you have an update on the COVID road closures in Tattenham Road? So Tattenham Road was one of the areas where the ward councillors were really supportive of the scheme. Again, really quite contentious in terms of our mailbag, but they're staying in place because of the ward councillor support. So thank you for your question, Sue. Brian Cope, you asked a specific question about what are our plans for this. So Brian, we're bringing forward our new local plan effectively. So there's going to be significant consultation on it. It takes us a long time to deliver. So over the next 2 years, 18 months to 2 years, we will be bringing that forward. There will be a consultation phase happening, I believe, over the summer. So please feed in areas that are really important to keep. We're committed to keeping as much as greenbelt as possibly we can. It's really important. I've mentioned earlier, one of the reasons why we're really interested in managing, getting so involved in regeneration and development of our towns is that effectively, if we're able to focus on development where we need it and want it, then we're able to get higher density numbers in some of those locations, which means we can protect the green belt. So we believe our regeneration agenda is absolutely linked to protecting the green belt, and we're committed to it. Fine. Andrew Edwards, please email me if you're saying I haven't responded to your email. I'd be surprised. So please email me again, and we can come. I'll look into that for you. Okay. David Kit Johnson, will BCP be providing any extra security when pubs reopen on the 12th? We know that people drink to excess, effectively. So David, across a variety of measures actually. So we've employed a significant number of COVID marshals We brought forward in our last budget in February 6 extra CSAS officers, so there are council officers but have some policing powers delegated to them. So we're bringing forward a significant amount of extra enforcement. We're working really closely with the police as well, effectively in terms of trying to manage it, these, because it's quite fast paced, effectively how some of these things have popped up before because we're coming in and out of lockdown. So we're working as closely with the police as we can. We're bringing forward COVID marshals. We're bringing forward extra enforcement officers in CSAS. So yeah, absolutely, we're going to do all we can there. Okay, fine. So we're now at 1:30. Thank you everybody for the questions. We'll get through to the ones we haven't answered and do as many as possible in the comments bar below. Really appreciate it. The next session we'll be having will be in 2 weeks' time. And look forward to receiving your questions. Thank everybody for all of their massive work in terms of reducing the numbers because of the lockdown and adhering to the rules. We've done fantastically locally, really appreciated, and the summer is coming and we've got some positivity to look forward to. So thank you ever so much for your engagement in this today, and look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.